Whose Dog? By Francis Gregg. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Dale Grothman. Whose Dog? By Francis Gregg. "Hey, there's ladies here! Move on, you!" The tone was authoritative, and old John, the village drunkard, crouched away. "I weren't doing nothing." He clutched feebly at the loose hanging rags that clothed him. "Only wanted to see same as them. Guess this pier's big enough to hold us all." "Hello, John, have a drink." A grinning boy held a can of salt water toward him. The big maudlin tears sprang to the old man's eyes. "Little fellers," he muttered. "Little fellers, they oughtn't to act that way. Give him a new necktie. He's going to go to dinner with the lodge." A handful of dank seaweed writhed around the old man's neck. "That's a turtle, that is," the boy went on, the need for imparting information justifying his lapse in ragging the drunkard. "There, swimming around. It's tied to that stake. You ought to have seen it at low tide when it was on the beach. It weighs 90 pounds. "I seen a turtle once," the drunkard quavered. "It was bigger'n that, and they tied it to a stake, and it swam around, and it swam around." His sodden brain clutched at something more to say, some marvel with which to hold the interest of the gathered boys. It was good to talk. If only they would let him talk to them. If only they would let him sit on the store porch and smoke and gossip. He wouldn't be the town disgrace. "Well, go on. What'll you do?" "Hey, you!" The boys were interrupted by the authoritarian voice. "I told you to move on, didn't I? Now, if I have to tell you again, I'll run you in. You hear? What you boys let this old bum hang around with you for anyway? What's he a-doing here?" "Aw, he's fun. He ain't doing nothing. He was just a-watching it swim. It's tied to that post. It don't come up no more." "Watching it swim, eh, was he? All right. Whose dog is it?" The officer turned and sauntered away. Sudden horror seized the old man. The liquor seemed to drain out of his veins. His brain worked almost quickly. "Whose dog? Whose dog? Say!" He darted after the retreating boys. "Say, that ain't no dog, is it? No dog? Tied up like that to drown? Say!" "Aw, keep off. I've told you once, it's a turtle for the lodge dinner." The boy shook himself free. The old man stood a moment, shaken. His pulpy brain worked dimly toward the conception of the pain that was consuming him. Whose dog? That man had asked, and he hadn't meant to help it. Whose dog? They could do it, tie up a dog to drown inside of people like that. Cruel. He saw the policeman coming toward him again. In a sudden frenzy, he clutched his tattered garments about him and began to run toward the end of the pier. The boys raced after him. "What are you going to do?" they shouted. "What are you going to do?" The old man turned and looked at them a moment with twitching features. "I'm a-going to die," he said. "Come on, fellers, come on! The drunk's going to dive! Come on, he's crying!" There was a splash. A surge of green filth and mud spread and dyed the water. A row of expectant heads leaned over the rail. "Say, he ain't coming up." They waited. The policeman strolled leisurely down in response to their repeated cries. "Who ain't coming up? What, him, the drunk?" The officer leaned lethargically over the rail. "What am I going to do? Why, leave him. He ain't got no folks going to sit up nights waiting for him. Now, you young ones, go along home to your suppers," he indignantly commanded. "And you little fellers, if you want crabs, be round here early. By tomorrow, this place will be fairly swarming with them." The end of Whose Dog? By Francis Gregg.